Our next delegator is Lynn Pedrusevich. Close. I think I might have got it. And Lynn is speaking. Please, no applause. Thank you very much. Lynn is speaking on the professionalism policy. Again, agenda item 5.1.1. Thank you, Lynn, for coming. Did I get close? Okay, have me. Okay, awesome. Thank you very much. So as mentioned, again, I'm just going to repeat one more time. You have 5 minutes for your presentation. I'll use my watch, try and give you a note when there's only 1 minute left. Once your delegation is over, I will open the floor for questions from the trustees. Please be mindful to ensure that you work within the parameters of the delegation procedures, and we welcome your presentation.
For sure. Good evening, trustees, HDSB administrators, and parents, community members in the gallery who are here to engage in democracy. Thank you for this opportunity. I am speaking this evening to address the HDSB draft professionalism policy. To begin, in the February 15th Director's interim report, it was stated that, quote, "We are mindful that we are in a period of statutory freeze according to the Ontario Labour Relations Act. To that end, I wish to make clear to the board that this perceived roadblock seems unwarranted. Ontario employment and labour lawyer Howard Levitt made public comment on this matter, citing that, quote, "The employer cannot change wages or benefits or other significant negotiated terms of employment during a statutory freeze, and that, quote, every collective agreement permits the employer to require its employees to dress reasonably, and even more so to require that a teacher of young people be a role model for civility and professionalism. The statutory freeze is therefore immaterial." Secondly, the Minister of Education has stated, quote, "The Halton School Board has an obligation to ensure that classrooms are safe and respectful places to learn. Teachers need to uphold the highest professional standards when they are in front of children. Both the Ontario College of Teachers and the Ministry of Education have publicly affirmed that boards already have the necessary authorities to enforce professional standards and the tools they need to do so. Even the Director's interim report validates this. The draft policy clearly states that its purpose is to, quote, "consolidate and affirm existing expectations regarding staff professionalism, including dress and decorum. There is nothing new to be created. This is not a policy documentation issue. The only problem here is policy interpretation and enforcement for all staff, because as we know, policies without enforcement are meaningless." This leads us to the crux of the matter, the claim that the very definition of the term professionalism may somehow infringe upon human rights granted to all staff. There is widespread acceptance in Canada that the term implies conducting oneself with responsibility, integrity, accountability, and excellence in alignment with a particular set of ethics, morals, and standards of behavior. For example, the Ontario College of Teachers says this about professionalism, quote, "Ontario certified teachers understand the imbalance of power they have with students and are careful to manage their responsibilities with respect and integrity. As professionals, teachers are expected to demonstrate good judgment and common sense at all times. Their actions should be as transparent as possible and have the appropriate consent of supervisors and parents and guardians." Section 264 of the Education Act further reinforces these virtues and responsibilities. Recently, however, some attempts have been made in Canada to reinterpret and redefine the term professionalism, claiming it is somehow an oppressive ideal that must be dismantled because it is, quote, "rooted in colonial, cis-heteronormative, patriarchal, white supremacist, Eurocentric settler values." This new and uncommon worldview requires robust public debate. Any attempts to redefine professionalism through this lens must be given due public consultation. The term professionalism appears in hundreds of Canadian policies, guides, and legal judgments where it is imbued with a positive and moral framework that fits the community's collective notion of what it means to act professionally. Until such time that this public debate is facilitated, parents must be assured that HDSB administrators will be expected to uphold and enforce current norms and interpretations of our agreed-upon language. School boards are tasked with balancing their human rights work alongside their students' responsibilities work. The application of the Ontario Human Rights Code sets legal precedents in this regard. An individual's code-protected grounds can be accommodated while still respecting the boundaries that uphold the professional standards of an employer. It is imperative that forms of identity and expression presented in a school environment be scrutinized against the child safeguarding practices enshrined in the Ontario Child, Youth and Family Services Act. The primacy of student safety and well-being must always be distinguished, prioritized, and protected by those in positions of power. Students must come first, a sentiment that was echoed yesterday by 3 Halton MPPs, the democratically elected representatives of this region. The trustees and the board should therefore see no conflict between human rights legislation and the enforcement of existing professional standards. In closing, parents and schools alike teach children about the importance of boundaries and consent. Boundaries define professionalism in the education system and must be upheld for all in order to restore public trust at the HDSB. The community is imploring you, the trustees, to hold our institutions to account and enforce long-standing policies and practices that center student well-being and parental rights. Thank you.
Thank you. If the gallery could please hold their applause, thank you. Do trustees have any questions for? Again, please, if I can please remind you, we'd like to get through this meeting tonight quite expediently, and clapping and that sort of thing will not allow us to do that. So if you can please hold your applause to congratulate her once you've left the gallery. Do any trustees have any questions for our delegate this evening? Oh, sorry. Trustee Gray.
Yes, thank you very much. Through the chair, would a copy of the transcript of your speech be made available to the board?
For sure.
Okay,
Yes.
thank you.
And just for a point of clarification on that, I have included some links in my speech that refers to the legislation and the quotes that I offered in that speech.
Thank you. Vice Chair Rocha.
Lynn, through you, Chair, through you, to you, Lynn. Thank you for your very thoughtful and considerate delegation. I do like that you've gathered many sources to come up with your delegation, and I do want to let all trustees know that we do have a copy of Lynn's delegation with all the links. So thank you very much for sharing. That was very well thought out and very well spoken. So thank you for your delegation this evening.
Thank you. Appreciate the opportunity.